Hello, footies, and welcome to Foot in Review. We are the #1 independent EAFC podcast, bringing you 2 shows a week, available on all podcast platforms around the world, including now on Amazon Music and as a fully produced video show on YouTube and Spotify. Of course, if you can spare a few bucks and join our loyalty programs and get some free merchandise while at it, visit patreon.com/footinreview or footinreview.com. Join our super close community. Get that invite to our Discord server with that, which is amazing. We've got lots of different channels on there, and it's kicking off as well for the new season. On that note, let's give a wee shout out to our Patreon Skybox owners, Paul C, AMRL, RTMW, Mario A, Peter M, and Simon E. Hello, footies, and welcome along. This is episode 546, would you believe? We are today focusing on our own advice on how to plan between now and FIFA 23 and the release of EAFC, whether that's the early release or full release. My name is Nathan. I will be hosting you today through this little guide, and I am absolutely delighted to introduce my co-host, my very good friend, the absolute master trader of all FIFA since I've known FIFA being a thing. It is Shaqattack. Shaq, welcome along, and how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you, Nate. Lovely to be here. And it's humbling hearing I'm a good trader from you. You've outsmarted the old wit, so yeah, well done.
It's all the guys that you and Dan have been doing in our amazing trading show. If you do
That's
that
right.
And you can work from home, then you've got plenty of time to trade. I shouldn't be saying that in case anybody that I work with is listening, so just ignore that. Before we get into it, Shaq, how is your hype train rolling along for EAFC 24? Are you excited? Is it still not quite hit yet? How are you feeling?
Oh, I think listening to Dan and Chris talk about the player ratings the other day, I really started to get excited. I think I must admit it, I'll mention it live on the show, is that one of the things that Dan spoke about is actually building a Lionesses squad. Originally, I thought it was unique, but the more and more I looked at it, that started to get me really hyped. The links, the way that Dan was thinking about, Dan is our Wimby, of course, the Wimby that hosts the podcast. He was talking about building a WSL team that links with the Premier League squad, and those sorts of combinations really started to get me really excited about the new game. It's a new facet, having women in the game, and just having watched the Women's World Cup here in Australia. And mind you, it was so hard for me to get tickets. I got tickets for one game after trying for 4 different games. So women's football is popular, all right, regardless of what the quality is, what people say, that's neither here or there. It is popular. And it was amazing. It was amazing to watch them play, and I'm really looking forward to assembling them into my squad. So basically, I'm looking forward to EAFC 2024. I'll keep saying FIFA every now and then, but EAFC 24.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was listening to that pod. I think we had the early release on the Monday before it went out to the wide platforms, and yeah, what they were talking about was getting us really excited. Like you, I'm a big advocate for women's football in general, so I'm excited. I'm a little bit apprehensive about how it's going to mix in with the men's game. I was reading some stuff through the week about sort of the physicality, how it works, so that's made me feel better. They're saying it compares with how they are in their own league. So, if you've got a woman with 90 physicality, it doesn't mean that they're particularly stronger than men in real life, but in their league, they're very strong. So stuff like that gives me a little bit more faith that they've thought this through, and, it's going to be quite fluid. So it's exciting. It's a good time. And, Wemby, he hit the nail on the head. Like this... Yeah. Potential squad snobbery, yep. I think that could be incredible. If you get in the early days and you find somebody that's really OP, but they're female, are people going to give them the chance or they're not? I just think it's really exciting, really intriguing, and I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, as people have said this multiple times, you spent it feels like 6 months, but it's only been a couple of months of using Vanja Milinkovic-Savic as a goalkeeper in midfield and using Peter Cech as striker. I don't think we have any room to complain about women's physicality.
Absolutely. No, I think it's going to be really good. And to be honest, I think this is going to do wonders for women's football in general. I think having those names out there, people are going to have a little bit more of an interest. I think it could only be a good thing. So, but that said, let us move on to the exciting stuff and what we hope people will be tuning in to listen to. So, EAFC is around the corner. A week today, we will have the early release for those lucky people that have pre-ordered. One thing I wanted to start with, Shaq, how we would go about the last week in FIFA 23 before the launch. So we were talking before the show. We have two slightly different lines of approach. Neither of them, I would say, are wrong. I'll just sort of jump in ahead and start, if you don't mind. But purely from the coaching side of things, now that I'm involved with John at Foot Coaching, I have actually gone back to basics already. So some people might think this is a little bit premature. I'm started with simple tactic setup. So I'm now running a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-2-2-2. These are my two sort of go-to formations, which allow you to suss out the game. They're so well tested that they're very solid. And I'm kind of relearning where players are going to be, what movements they are. My thoughts on that is obviously the players right now you're getting 98, 99 rated players all over the place. But in the start of the game, you want to suss it out, don't you? You really want to know, like, before you master the mechanics and you master the tweaks, you kind of want to make sure I'm not going to go in here and either lose this game or I'm not going to get hiding as well. So my idea is to take a bit more of a balanced approach just now so I get my head around it. But Shaq, talk us through your slightly different way.
My different approach is right now the players we have are 99 rated, blah, blah, blah. We have Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, all these guys make incredible runs, incredible movement. And you don't really need to be conservative with these players. You can just you can just go hell for leather. I'm playing a 3-5-2 right now, and I plan to play a 3-5-2 till the end of the game. And I've done this for the past 2 years as well. I've just played 3-5-2 towards the end so that I can just go hell for leather, just do whatever I feel like. Because when the new game starts, I go back to a 4-4-2, a completely different formation, completely different settings and everything, simply because if I continue playing 3-5-2 next year, or if I start 4-4-2 now with these amazing players, when I move on to next year, I'll be expecting my squad to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And it's going to be a bit of a long learning curve for me to get used to, oh, hang on, I don't have a 99 rated striker anymore. I have a 81 rated striker. And if you have someone like Anthony Martial or Gabriel Jesus, they're not going to do the same thing that a CR7 footy scout is going to do. So those are the things that it's a really good clean break for me. It changes from game to game, but I usually start every single FIFA with a 4-4-2. And sometimes it's amazing. And if 4-4-2 can continue, I just love to keep using 4-4-2 till it evolves. If not, 4-2-3-1 is something I will jump into, but 4-4-2 is how I would start FIFA, EAFC 24 for sure.
FIFA again. No, I mean, that's a good approach. I mean, you like myself, you've traded really hard. You've grinded the menus. You've played the objectives. You've done everything pretty much in the game, pretty much for the last 51 weeks. So, there is a part of me that's saying, go hell for leather, enjoy. You've not worked so hard through the year to get the CR7 and the Messi that's been out for the last week or so, and grinded right through that. So that's a really cool approach as well. And by all means, that's the aim of the game, is to have fun. There's less OP players, like you said. So these players, you're not going to be able to score a driven shot from 40 yards like you probably could now, or you're not going to be able to pull off, even if you're lucky enough to say get a Neymar that's 5-star. His transitions in his skill moves aren't going to be like they are now. That all his stats are super juiced. So so I totally see why you're doing that as well. The one tip though, I would also say, and Shaq, I know you play for a bit more fun than trying to get your 20 wins on weekend leagues or whatever. Right now, all the sort of mechanical glitches are being exploited. We've got the Travellas, you've got the certain skill moves that you can glitch through. You've got the go down the byline and cut it back. If you are thinking EAFC 24 in mind at this stage, I would try and take a few days or a week to avoid using them. If you rely on them, if that's your simple sort of what you rely on to get your wins, there's a chance that that's not going to translate well to EAFC 24, in my opinion. I'm not somebody that's been privy enough to have the beta, so I've heard bits and bobs. And every year, every sort of installment of FIFA or EAFC, this is going to be quite tiring, isn't it? Sort of saying the two names, but every installment of this franchise is slightly different in terms of your build up and the gameplay and everything, which is what we want. We don't want the same game rehashed, but if you're purely relying on that, I think that may slightly put you at a disadvantage going into the next installment. How do you think about that?
That's exactly that's quite spot on. Like, also, if you're someone who uses kickoff glitches, goals, like trying to do a pass and a through ball over the top across to your striker for a goal, just take a long, hard look at yourself first. And then just remember that those tactics will not be useful next year. So stop doing them right now. You should have stopped 6 months ago, but stop doing them now, for heaven's sake. It's just not going to work. And there's people, I think the problem is right now, all the people that are left playing the game know every single glitch and exploit in the game. So it is a bit frustrating on that end, but because we have much better players to tackle it, it's really easy to circumvent that. But yeah, next year, none of this stuff is going to work. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey. But the only trouble is, week 2, there'll be someone that posts a video that talks about something that's glitchy or OP, and we're back at it again. So
absolutely. I mean, people will try and take the way to make, to get the best results. And to be honest, if it's in the game, as long as you're adaptable, if they patch it or whatever, then if it's in the game, it's going to get used. And although the kickoff glitch and such is something I really dislike, I have also done it myself on occasions.
all right.
And it's there to be exploited. So I don't like it, but I also don't hate it enough when I can do it. I just hate it when people do it to me.
I'm just one of those guys that will never try to do an exploit. Like even... do you remember load-driven shots a couple of years ago, maybe FIFA 20 and FIFA? They were really OP all year, and I refused to use them all the way till the end of the game, and started using them and realized, hang on, I've been missing my whole... I've wasted 6 months in trying to be high and mighty, not using them, and I realized how effective they were. And same thing, I think last year it was the step overs. They were so OP for a long time, and I just refused to use them. And once I got them in the game, realized it was really good, but that was patched very quickly. So yeah, regardless, just start fresh again. Leave the exploits alone.
Absolutely. And the one other bit of advice for those still playing FIFA 23 we haven't touched on, because it's not something I don't think either of us are going to do, is you could also take this week just to have a wee break. Give yourself a clean break, refresh your mind, give your thumbs a little bit of a rest, because I'm sure they've been well used and they will be well used coming up. So if you think, if you're playing this far, you're probably not going to be suffering for burnout, because you would have stopped by now, I think, with the burnout. But again, this may be a nice time to either maximize those fun players or just have a wee step back and go, I'm going to compose myself. We're going to have another 50 odd weeks of the hard grind coming up. So I'm going to take a few days just to chill and gather my thoughts.
You know what? That's probably the right thing to do. That's probably the best thing to do, is let the controller down, forget the game for a week's time, come back completely refreshed. But it doesn't apply for you or me, Nate. So we can...
Exactly. I mean, now that we've got the repeatable 85 times 10, I mean, I don't think I have anything called free time anymore, because it's just constantly on that if I'm not doing anything.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So moving on to a week today, we've got notes here for those that can't see, Shaq and I, that are working from. So I've mapped out kind of just a few points to go through. So the first thing, Shaq, team planning. Are you the sort of person now that's on Footbin or whatever tool you use to create a team? How would you approach kind of the early days of your team, or even sort of pre-release time to have a team in mind?
Look, at this point in time, I'll be honest with you, my approach is really archaic, in the sense I don't try to get really hunky-dory with certain kind of cards or certain kind of teams, because you never know what's going to happen. Like, you'll have plans for having X, Y, and Z player, and within one of those untradeable packs, you pack, say, Vinny Jr. or Bellingham or anyone like that, and just completely changes your plan. So what I usually do is I go with whoever I get, whichever player I get, the best player untradeable, I build around them. That's the easiest way. And it's more fun as well. Keeps it organic as well. And it just works for me. That's what I usually do. Whichever player I get untradeable, build around them, and just slowly put a piece by piece, build a squad together. And I think it slows down the process and makes it more enjoyable. In the past, I must admit, one of the things I used to love about the start of the game was I used to start that way with the bronze cards and have one marquee player, and slowly build a new left back, which is a gold, and a new right back. And it used to take a couple of days, a week to get to all golds. But nowadays, day one, everyone's got gold teams, and that kind of is annoying, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year, pretty much everyone had, an 84 rated squad from the first day, which was mental, because, like you say, I'm used to people kind of building up. But times have changed. And to be honest, we have been in here criticizing EA in the past with plenty of things, but they aren't overly stingy in how you can get packs at the moment. Some of the objectives which we'll go into and stuff. So, yeah. my opinion is I don't think you can actually plan a team. Like you said, the a lot of it depends on the packs. If you've done the objectives from FIFA 23, you'll get the new start packs, probably knowing EA about 6 months into it, but you do have some packs coming in. You also, you get your, if you've pre-ordered, I think you get 4,600 FIFA points. People will be using FIFA points. And obviously your starter squads as well. So I'm quite in mind to have a look and see what players, in an ideal world, if I pack, if I'm gonna pack Mbappe, then I'll be happy. Let's be honest. But realistically, only Dan's got that look.
That's exactly right. That's right.
So I like to know what players are going to be quite good, and something that we'll touch on later, and you and Dan will do on your trading show, which you're going to bring out. Meta players kind of do come into it as well. One thing though, I don't want to delve too far into this. Again, like I said, I've not played the beta, however you pronounce it. Playstyles. We're having a discussion last night with the sort of foot and review hosts. Playstyles from those that have used it seem to be very powerful. So I wouldn't be, putting my eggs all in one basket until you know what playstyles there are, how they feel, how they suit you. Because you could get again, I'll go back to Neymar, who's really agile. But with the new playstyles, I might want somebody that's going to be a crosser and a finisher, or tiki taka. So I think team planning certainly in the lead up, I think awareness more than planning's the better way to go. That's what I would recommend. Know what players look like they're going to be very good. Obviously, you can kind of build around that or build around the pools that you have. Just incidentally on that, I think John is planning to do a full show on sort of the new features of the game, possibly in between pre-release and full release. John's actually feeling under the weather now, so just what we shout out to John, say hopefully you'll feel better, you'll get your voice back soon, and you'll be up to full strength, especially because it's going to get very, very busy with the new game. So
definitely.
Team planning wise, I think, like I say, awareness for me. Don't get yourself too caught up on planning, especially because the way that FIFA's gone, and EA probably will follow it, is there's a promo in pre-release, so these gold cards probably may get replaced very, very quickly, like they started to do last time as well. So don't get yourself too brought up on that. Starter Nations is something that we see pretty much every Ultimate team that I can remember, certainly for the last wee while. Do you have a set Starter Nation, Shaq, or do you just pick randomly, or how do you do it?
I've usually settled on France for some random reason that I will pack an Mbappe, which has never happened, never ever happened. So, but I think the smart thing, I will discuss this in more detail when we actually get to the trading show, but I think the smart pick would be Brazil. And if you want to know why, just log in and listen to our trading show, which is exclusive on the Patreon feed. I'll tell you why Brazil is the best pick to have.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got there's three that I've picked out. Brazil, incidentally, is actually one of them that I've picked out, and you do have the big pulls, the dream pulls, if you like, the Vinny, the Neymars, and there's one of the women. My pronunciation's terrible, so my apologies, but Deborah Cristiane de Oliveira is one that I've picked out. Exactly.
It's like you live in Rio de Janeiro.
I am fluent with my half English, half Scottish accent, but I have her highlighted as being a bit of a pinnacle for the Brazilian women. I've got England on there. Obviously, Kane, his pace will be slow, but I think in a new build-up, I reckon he could be phenomenal. He always is quite good early game if you don't rely on pure speed. Obviously, Bellingham, Kyle Walker is always incredible. You got Lauren Hemp and Kelly as well, which Dan, I think, picked out. They wouldn't mind pulling a Kelly, I think it was his words in the last one. And France, like you say, Mbappe, Dembele, and Kunku looks incredible going by the release. And then from the women's part of it, Diani and Katoto. So I think there's three very strong teams. There's also Norway attacking wise. I think we were looking at, they look very, very good. Spain look great. So there's plenty of options. I actually think the introduction of women may actually widen the horizons as well in terms of, I don't think there's going to be many bad options to take, in my honest opinion, for this. So that's quite exciting.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting. I think the only thing that I'll point out as well is don't hope to build one of these big pools when you choose a squad, when you choose a country. But think about those cards that you're pulling, what can they use for? They can be used for SBCs. Think about that. That's it. I'll leave it
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the next on our agenda anyway, the SBCs. But you're right. Even that, and if you get, we kind of spoke about don't plan your team because one big pull will change it. But actually, if you get a number of good pulls, it doesn't have to be excellent. But early game, your team are going to be made up of 82s, 83s, maybe even 81s. So, or I think somebody said Joe Gomez had gone down to 79 or something. So you might even have a 79 in the starting squad. So if you get a number of solid pulls rather than, one incredible one, that also might change the way that your team looks. So if you get a good start to that, and these guys will link, obviously that's slightly different with the way that they went linked to the same, women went linked to the same leagues in the teams. The men kind of do as they always have done, or even some of the new heroes and icons that are in. So that's a good one to be mindful for. But again, there probably isn't many bad ways to go with that. So as you've mentioned, Shaq, SBCs, I know this is one that's a bit of your sort of bread and butter. You love the menu grind of it. So I'll let you lead the way on this. Kind of, what's your advice for attacking the early, I'll say early day, but maybe even the early week of EAFC 24 in terms of SBCs?
All I can say is when you get the web app, try and do as many SBCs as you possibly can. Having said that, there's two really big caveats I want to put through. Last year was the first time when these SBCs were untradeable. If the SBCs are untradeable again, and you don't have the players in your squad to complete the SBCs, hold off. Don't worry about SBCs. Do something else, because don't waste your coins in trying to buy cards to complete an SBC to get an untradeable pack. That's just not worth your time and effort. If they're tradable, do whatever you can to try and get those packs, because that will help you a lot. It'll just catapult you to a few extra coins that you really need at that point in time. And if you have any cards that you pack and you're not really sure what to do with them, don't discard them just yet, unless they're cards that you necessarily know you will not need them for SBCs in the future. They're a random Burkina Faso bronze goalkeeper. Sure, go ahead and discard that one, get some coins in. But if it's a rare gold Brazilian left back from the Portuguese league, keep him. Just keep him. You never know that card might go up to 10,000 coins. So just keep those kind of cards. You never know what will happen. And I think you will see a huge spike on day one with these SBCs, with people all rushing into the SBCs. So we'll go through with a lot more detail on our trading show. But I think SBC stuff would be the best thing to trade at in the early few days. So we don't necessarily know if EA will follow the same patterns as FIFA 23 in EAFC 24. Normally we would expect the same thing because it's been the same thing year on year, but we have a new title. Who knows? It could be completely different. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. It could be completely different. So let's hope for a fresh start.
Absolutely. No, you're right there. I mean, I would imagine they would have some sort of SBCs, whether they categorize it as, the foundations and whatever as they were doing, remains to be seen. But I would imagine they, like I said earlier, that they are quite good at giving you ways to get an injection of players, at least. Maybe getting stingier in the ways of getting your cash and your coin injection, but they are, they're quite happy to give you those low to mid tier gold cards and such like. So I would imagine they do have them. Yeah, pretty much what you said. Don't discard or sell any unless you've completed some of the foundations or you're convinced that it's a high top tier meta card that's going to rise. We were talking kind of offline, and then again, I'm trying to be quite brief with this, not because I don't want to give listeners any information, but I know that yourself and Dan are doing your trading show, so I don't want to step on your toes. But obviously, we're doing a bit of a preparation show, so we'll kind of just mention them. But last year, the sort of mid metas kind of dropped. Like people expected, the Bellinghams and stuff to go sky high. They didn't. Certain players took a couple of weeks, to marinate. Like Haaland wasn't instantly meta until people thought, oh wow, lengthy is incredible. Let's use lengthy, and suddenly Haaland went crazy. Obviously, the more players there are, it could actually go either way. When you look at it from a step back kind of objective point of view, it could be that these better players, more people will want the better players, so they'll pay more coins. Other people could look at it and go, actually, there's more players playing now and opening packs. There's more coins to be spent, so it might bring them down. So I'll let you and Dan discuss that further next week, but it's also something to think about what you do. And to be honest, this might be a good wee place to put a wee unselfish plug. I know in the intro there is a bit about our Discord, but our Discord's incredible. Like Shaq, you said, there's access to the trading show. There's also, there's a trading channel in the Discord, so you don't have to wait for your release. You can put a question in the Discord about, I've got this player. What do you think I'd do with it? I'm looking at this. Have we got investments? You guys are always coming up with tips. Like Dan says, you're not actually giving you the information. You just you're not giving you the fish. You're just teaching you how to go fishing. So, they'll give advice, but if there's a gold mine, then, people aren't going to hold on to that information. We're going to be sharing it in that Discord. We had a few last year that were outstanding. And like I said at the start, we learned off you and managed to make 50 million coins this year. So can't really grumble with that. So yeah, there's lots of things to consider, especially with the SBCs. But it's quite hard as well because it's a new game. Like you said, you can't really say for sure this is the pattern they're going to follow. We've got an educated guess that it's a recipe they've been using, so why would they completely revamp that? But, we can't go in with a closed mind is basically all I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, absolutely. We just don't know what it is. But I think one of the clearest things that'll happen is as soon as the web app releases and we get some more information, there'll be a lot of chatter on Discord, which is great. And so, yeah, just jump in and then, talk to us.
Absolutely. That's how I started getting into trading originally, was before you guys did your show. I was messaging Dan on the bronze pack method, and that's kind of my initial sort of way to build coins. That was about 3 or 4 years ago. So since then, it's just got going. So we think they're going to be bringing out these SBCs, and to be honest, I would be massively, massively shocked if we didn't. But we shall see in a week's time.
Yeah.
The next thing that I usually do, and when I've had access to the beta, I've not really done it in Rivals, but objectives. There's usually foundation type objectives as well as SBCs. So I'm talking play 10 games. I'm talking score 500 goals, 500 assists. And these usually give you okay-ish packs, for each milestone. I think you usually get like a gold pack, a rare gold pack, a gold players pack, whatever. And then it usually ends up with being an ultimate pack or a Jumbo
rare players,
rare players pack. So these ones are quite good if you want to try and build your team very quickly. The way that EA have done it this year, it's been untradeable. All these things have been untradeable back, but it might be a good way to try and get done quickly and pad out your team straight away, be it for the SBC fodder, be it for that hope of getting a player that's going to fit straight into your team before it's diluted by promo players, or having to wait too much, and give you a good way of jumping up the leagues. How do you usually attack these objectives in the early sort of days and weeks of the game?
It really depends on what my squad's looking like and how many coins I have. And if I really need that really big pull that I'm really chasing, I will go ahead and do these objectives to score the 500 goals. I think the 500 goals one is something that I really look forward to completing organically, but sometimes you just get carried away and just go into 6 or 7 squad battle games and just smash it through and get it done. But it completely depends on how my time is looking as well. Again, I keep pointing out over and over again at the start of the game, it's not a race. It's a long marathon. Just enjoy the journey as you go. You don't need to have the best team on day 1 or day 3 or day 7. It just keeps getting better and better. So you don't need to get the best card on day 1. So just enjoy the process. Just try some of these cards. You may never try them ever again in the game. So if you get a random card that's a 77 rated that you just want to try, give it a shot. You won't try him ever again. He's going to be SBC. He won't even be SBC fodder. So enjoy that process is all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. I rember using Decouri for the last 2 or 3. Decouri and Yeka, I think, from Brentford are my usual go-to destroyers in my midfield. And after week 1 or 2, you never use them, but it's quite fun using these players. And ones that you kind of either like watching or you like seeing in real life, when they crunch a player in the tackle, you think, I'm going to do that with them just now because they can keep up with them.
That's right.
But absolutely, the only other thing I would say to that, Shaq, is if you do want to get these done quite quickly, you can put it on, is it beginner or amateur level in squad battles? But you can also, if you're unsure of the new mechanics, the new gameplay, the new game styles, do it in squad battles, but do it with a better difficulty, so you can learn it without taking it into Rivals and then be worried about your performance in Rivals against other sort of human opposition. Do it against the AI. Learn how your players act. Learn how the mechanics are. Learn the game, and it gives you a bit of a less pressure situation to do it. I know people when you say squad battle still, a lot of people, they kind of go, ooh, absolutely not. But it's a really good place, especially early game when they've tweaked some of the systems, and I think it's a good way to kind of go and just learn it and kind of get used to the different things that they've brought out for the new release.
Absolutely, completely agree on that. Yeah, that's a really good way to get your game going initially, because you've come from playing completely different squads, completely different players, and it's a new game mechanic. Let's just get used to all these players, and squad battles is a pressure-less way to do it.
Absolutely. Grand. So here's another contentious point. So we have said the dreaded squad battles. This one, people are divided on, obviously, FIFA points, or if you've got quite a lot of coins early on. So I have in the past spent FIFA points, which I'm sure majority of players have over the last however many years.
Oh yeah.
Last year, I mean, this EA was the best. No, this FIFA was the best start I could have hoped for. I think I got was it Mid-Eto or Baby Eto, which got me 1.1 million coins on day release and a preview pack. So, I mean, that set me up straight away. So I can 100% hand on heart say I will never get as lucky as that early doors. But if you have lots of coins, suddenly like 1 million coins from one monster pull, if you have loaded up FIFA points, how would you attack, the first few days of the first week?
I think if you actually load up, if you're planning to load up FIFA points, I normally load up some FIFA points on day one, just on day one. On release day, whenever you get the game in your hands, load up those FIFA points. I know it's tempting to hold on and wait for the promo to start to open the packs. It's never bothered me. I open it on day one because Gabriel Jesus might be worth 30,000 on day one when everyone's trying to make squads. By day three, he will just be, no one wants him. No one wants to use him anymore. He'll just be back to 6,000 coins. So day one is when you get the best bang for your buck. So if you really want to open FIFA points, just do it on day one. Get it out of the way. Don't ever touch FIFA points ever again for the rest of the game cycle. That's my advice. And that's a really good way to start. And you can get you get a war chest of coins that you can play with. You get informs, and you get you I think again, I'm not trying to condone the use of FIFA points, but basically with every 12K spent on FIFA points, you can expect 100,000 coin return. That's a really good metric that I've followed over the past couple of years. So every 12K you open, you will get 100,000 coins roughly, and that can set you up. You can plan in your head how you actually plan to use those coins, and that's how I go about it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try and be quite balanced on the show. We know people don't like FIFA points, but we also know that people do like FIFA points. So, I think it's only fair that we do explore that for the people that do it as well. I know that John, our great leader for coaching, he kind of splits his points. He does put on points, but he usually splits his, I think, between opening packs and playing drafts. If you're quite confident in your ability, if you're a good level player, perhaps if you've had access to the beta and you've learned the mechanics already, I can't remember how, is it 150 points, maybe 125 points? I don't know. However many points it is to do a few rounds of drafts, especially if you think you're going to go into rounds 3, round 4, you get decent packs back. Although, sometimes they're not as good packs as you think you would for some reason. But that's another way to get more players in. If you're doing that, you potentially get better packs back than you would with the in-store packs at that point. Because obviously, with there being no promo, it's only usually the gold pack. It's not a jumbo gold pack. There's two. There was two, isn't there? There's only one gold pack now. That's a preview pack and the normal gold pack. So
that's right.
So depends. If you're comfortable and confident, go for the draft way. However, if you want to, like you say, get the early return on investments, then either by coins or by points. And like you say, if people have pre-ordered, then they're going to have the points anyway. So it's probably a good way to do it. Again, don't want to go too in depth because I don't want to steal your limelight later on next week.
That's all right.
So the last sort of thing we come to. So obviously we've talked about planning your team, but building your team. You've got your coins, you've done your objectives, you've done your SBCs, you've had a few games of drafts, you've had a few whatever. Building your team. People, if by day, even by evening of day 1, by day 2, day 3, people already have an idea of what players are doing really well. One thing I like to do is I'm quite hooked on Twitter, or X as we call it now. I follow a lot of content creators, a lot of pros, so even just a lot of FIFA players, of Ultimate Team players. Sorry, it's a good way of keeping in with players that are playing a lot of time in it and going, actually, X is incredible because, like we touched on, Haaland was possibly the best example we could have thought of. People normally would have got Haaland and go, oh, he's a high rating, but that's all he is. He's fodder because actually he's very clunky. He's this. He's got 3-star weak foot. Week 2 came along, and I'm sure, was it his one to watch or was it his team? There was one card that we all got into, and it was going for like 200,000 in the first couple of weeks.
It was the gold card.
Is it just the gold card? I remember him just being wild. Him and even Darwin Núñez, where you look at it and go, how is he so good? But he, again, was another one that kind of took off and off and off. So keep your ear to the ground, I would sort of say, when you're building your team. There are always a couple of cheap beasts. Joe Gomez, again, he goes up and up, but you can always jump on a player. And I'm not saying Gomez this year is going to be, as OP as he was, but he starts off, before people cotton onto him, he's, 4K. And then suddenly you look at it and he goes, oh, he's 24K. Oh, wow, he's gone up to 40K. Like, these players that, again, the women's team or the women players actually might be the perfect one of this, play somebody who's, 4-star, who's got decent stats, and they might play incredibly well. You can imagine a lot of these being sort of mini Messis almost. So, with the agility and the body type. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But if you're playing them, if your best pal's playing them, if you're in our Discord and, people always go, have you tried this player? He's incredible or she's incredible. I think early doors, that's what you have to do. Either that or just give people a go. Like you said, give these players that you've got from the packs, give them a chance, because some of them might be knocking on the door saying, Gaffer, I want to play. So you've got that. I mean, how would you kind of treat it after the first week? Would you buy a team, or would you say, actually, no, my coins are king? I've got that as a note, coin is king early on. So would you go, or would you buy maybe one marquee player? John's spoken in the past about having a striker. He wants a Haaland and Mbappe, whoever early does that's going to score him 3 goals a game, and then just build the rest could be a bit lesser. Or do you just go, I'm just going purely untradeable, all my tradable stuff's going? Like, how would you approach it?
Like I said, I'm really organic, and if I pack something untradeable, I'll build around that. I might buy one of those cheap beasts. Like last year would have been Araujo. I would have bought an Araujo for 6,000 coins as my marquee initially, to just make me feel happy that I'm with the in crowd and using a meta player. But essentially, I don't go hell for leather trying to buy a really meta card unless I'm trading with that card. I do a lot of trading initially where I buy some meta players that I know will go up. So if I buy, I don't know, I'm just thinking last year I was looking at Vinny Jr. and I was glad I didn't pull the trigger because he didn't rise as much because there was an issue with lengthy and explosive. Explosive players were not as good, and people like that just didn't. He was 200K and then kept dropping. He just didn't work as well, and which is good. I stepped. So if you have enough coins, just be wary on buying players that you haven't tried. If you hear someone saying this player is particularly good, that could be someone you could be interested in. Otherwise, just be a little bit careful initially, because with so many different play styles, we don't necessarily know which one's working effectively for the start of the game for the cards that we have available. Not to say that a particular play style is good or not. We don't necessarily know. It could be that play style is actually good, but the cards we have on offer don't really suit that play style. Or the tiki-taka. I think there's a tiki-taka.
Yeah,
I can't remember the actual word, what it comes under, but tiki-taka is supposed to be really popular. You could have, I'm just hypothetically speaking, a card like Rodri is an 89 rated card, 58 pace. It could be horrible, but with whatever the playstyle he's got and the tiki-taka feature that he might have, he might be an exceptional card initially for the early days. If you pack one of them, it could be worth holding on to. And I'll talk about SPC fodder as well in the trading show as well. But if you do pack someone who's 89 rated, 90 rated, and you don't necessarily need the coins early doors, just consider holding on to them. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm hoping these playstyles make pretty much every player, especially even every popular player in terms of real life football. Hopefully, they'll get a bit more usability out of them, because there are players that you want to play. Like Harry Kane's one of the best, if not the best, number 9 in world football. Same with Lewandowski. Those two are unique, but they're okay. And even early doors, they're okay and they'll score goals, but they're not necessarily the most fun cards to use. Or, you use them, but everyone else is using small nippy players or small fast players or whatever. So yeah, you're right. I think that's tremendous advice. And building your team, everyone's got their own different way of playing. So if you like a big striker up top, I love watching a game of football and seeing a header, burst the net, or I like playing FIFA where my cross goes straight onto them. So I might get a crosser and a power header type player, up front. I love that type of thing. So I think what you're saying there is just tremendous. Sort of suss it out and don't be too quick to discard. So
Exactly.
Once you get into the game, I mean, I've just written down a few points from a foot coaching point of view, and I don't speak for all the foot coaching, but I speak for kind of what I've seen. So once we're playing the game, once we get into the actual gameplay of it, I already said I'd recommend using sort of balance or even sort of slightly more conservative. So I'm not talking about one depth drop back because I think that's just a bit dull unless it's your see and out tactic. But keep it quite balanced. You know, you do 4-2-3-1. The typical stuff is to kind of have it balanced in terms of your tactics, your build up. In this one, it's always been balance, direct passing. But even just keep everything on balance for that. You know, conservative with your fullbacks. Keep either one of them on stay back or keep even both of them on stay back. Yeah. You know, if you're doing 4-2-3-1, one CDM on stay back again, or even both, or have one unbalanced. You know, just have it so you can suss it out. You don't leave yourself too open. You learn the game. But learn the mechanics of the game. I mean, I'm not talking about the glitches that you think, you know, step over, like you said earlier. If you learn step over, you've got a week of learning step over, but they might actually, you know, either patch it or shadow patch it so it's less effective. So I wouldn't say use the exploits, but the mechanics and the exploits are slightly different in terms of the mechanics we're talking about, how you use the new precision passing or you just normal passing, how you use the whipped cross or how you use the play styles. So I would recommend learning that side of things rather than the actual exploits. And the last thing, which I need to kind of keep re-emphasizing to myself, Shaq, when we're starting off, you know, it takes time for players to build up the ladder. So we all start in Division 10. I think before you kind of had your first 10 games, which saw where you were. But in this new ladder system, I think everybody starts at Division 10. So you can imagine if we were all starting there, apart from, you know, the content creators or whatever, but the majority of people are going to be there. So you might come up against somebody that is a Division 10 player, nothing wrong with that, but you might win fairly comfortable. But you might also come up against an elite player in Division 10 because you're starting the same day. So I would just say don't get too caught up in your results early doors. And like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you think you're an elite player or you think you're a Division 3 player or whatever you think you are, if you don't get there in the first day, if you don't get there in the first week, hell, if you don't get there in the first season, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
These players will take time to separate. They'll take time to climb. You'll take time to learn the game, get your team together. So, I would just say don't be too negative on yourself. Don't get yourself disheartened, and just kind of enjoy the ride. Enjoy what's going to be the next 52 weeks of EAFC. Have you got kind of any more advice before we kind of go into our last section of questions from the audience?
No, that's pretty much it. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think just enjoy the start of the game. The only other thing I just want to mention as well, right now, you can literally hold the sprint button and dance while you're doing a speed dribble while you're doing something else and shoot and the ball goes in. So you can't do all that in EAFC 24 at the start of the game with a 79 rated squad. So just slow down your play. Pass it backwards, pass it sideways. You don't have to attack on goal every single time. Just slow down. And the game will feel slow. I think this is something that I think people really don't appreciate as much. The game will feel extremely slow compared to what we're playing right now. It's not because the game is slow, it's because the players are not as good as what we're used to right now. So just enjoy the process, slow it down, and suss things out, as you said. Just suss it out.
Absolutely. I think we should, if we get £1 for every time we see on social media, the game's too slow, this is terrible for the first week or so, you know, we will be millionaires. We'll not even just be rich, we'll be millionaires.
That's right.
Just before we go, I know you're on a bit of a time limit, Shaq, obviously time difference and that over there. We've just got a few questions in our Discord. Again, we always open it up to our wonderful members. So if you want to ask us anything and you want your question on the pod, then you can fire in there. So Kirky's asked a few. Firstly, any play styles you'd like to try or look to incorporate into your team?
I think I really want to understand how they all work before I can actually make a judgment call on that. But I'm really keen to see how the explosive players actually work in game. And I think it's too early to say, but it's going to depend on how it all plays out and how the cards are initially. But yeah, I think I'm really keen to see the explosive kind of players, to be honest.
Outstanding. Yeah, like I said, I want to have, I think there's one that's whipped crossing, I think it's called, which I'm really, whipped pass. So I'm quite keen for that and a power header. I've also heard that tiki-taka, like you said, is incredible, and some of the agile players might be very good. So I think it gives you a few more squad building opportunities, because if you've got two centre mids. You've got one that's got, I think there's one now that's called press proven, so they're easier to keep they keep players under keep the ball under pressure a lot easier. So you've got a press resistant type player and a bruiser. I think you could actually replicate how your favourite teams of either today or past years do. I think there's great opportunities there. So, like you say, we need to suss it out first. He's also asked what trading tips for the start of the web app is out. My tip for that is listen to the show on Tuesday. Hopefully we've given you some sort of basic insight in here, but obviously the trading gurus that are Wemby and Shaq will kind of go into a lot more depth than we have on here. What division are you aiming for season 1 to finish in? This is quite an interesting question.
I think, to be honest, it's really hard to know depending on how I am in the game. And I think it's too early in the year to try and sandbag yourself into a lower division. Just try. Yeah, look, I'm not going to put it past people to sandbag themselves into Division 6 or 7 in the starting of the season. But look, just see how you go. If you're enjoying the game and you're getting the wins on the bounce, don't curtail yourself from moving up. Just go up. It's fine. You will drop back anyway at the end of the season. I don't really have an aim in mind. I would like to go as high as I can, but I don't have Division 1 or even Division 2 in mind. It's just where I end up is where I end up. I just want to enjoy the game and understand the mechanics of the game as much as I can and get better. That's all I'm aiming for.
Yeah, that's a great approach. I mean, you've said the word organically quite a few times through this pod, and I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, personally speaking, I know you've got a family, Shaq. I've got a young one as well, so I might not even have as much time as I have this year. So I'm not really setting any things. I mean, I'm a consistent elite division player now, which is kind of last year I broke into elite. 23, I've been in elite every season apart from the first one, I think. So, that takes a bit of a grind. It does take a little bit of the mentality from you as well. So I'm lucky that John's asked me to be a bit more involved in the foot coaching and side of things as well. So I personally feel my time's going to be a bit more limited. Even if I can get up to Division 5, Division 4 with the sort of time, I mean, I'm not aiming per se, but that's where I could envision myself being around come the end of the season. To be honest, we know the packs and the rewards for your rivals is going to be pretty much nonsense unless you're an elite anyway. So that side of things, I don't think I'm going to get het up about. But if I can kind of get the top half of the divisions, yeah, I'll be fairly happy and quite comfortable with myself, especially because time's going to be a bit more limited. Neurozic as well, our good friend, has asked us, after you load up the web app and open your terrible welcome back packs, what's the first thing you do to try and build up some coins? So obviously you guys will talk about that on the trading show. The other thing we kind of already mentioned with that as well is obviously once you open those packs, I would try and do those SBCs that are already in there, especially the tradable ones, to see if you get any bigger pulls than you would have put in there, and then either sell them or keep them for days, weeks to come.
I think there's going to be at least a good week of sell or keep. There's going to be every single card, sell or keep, and it's going to be really hard to know exactly what to do in those situations. I think just go with your gut. If you think this card's undervalued and actually use them in game, if you can actually get to a stage where you can use them in game, then decide for yourself. But if it's too early, you still haven't had the opportunity to use them in game, just visualize to see, will this card actually go up or not? And we will try and help you through. But again, our guess is just a guess as well, based on it's a well-informed guess, but it's still a guess. So yeah, we'll see how it goes from there on in. But I think another way, I just was looking at some information about bronze packs as well. Depending on the SBCs, if certain SBCs require certain positions that are unique and rare, but that can be filled by bronze players, the bronze pack method is fairly effective at the start of the game. All you need those popular nations to pop out. Like I think there's England a couple of years ago that was really popular. So England, Germany, bronze players. So bronze pack method is something that you can actually get some coins out of, even trading bronzes. But we'll break that down in further detail once we get onto the trading show on Tuesday.
Perfect. And the one thing I will caveat everything we've said today, well, not in the gameplay wise, but in terms of the setting your squad up, this is the first time EA have put a promo on pre-release. So that, I mean, what we're saying now is like you said, it's an educated guess. It's taken from past FIFAs, but obviously having, I think is it the Nike promo this new one is? I think nobody really knows what's happened. There's a few players leaks. If you're into leaks, we'll not say them on air. But how everything's going to react to that.
I don't know if it's a leak or if it's a well-known information. There was one player that everyone was speaking. I won't mention it here, but everyone was speaking of this particular Argentinian player. But I don't really know if it was a leak or if it was it was posted somewhere
It
by
was
EA. But
released.
yeah, and I don't. Yeah, it's different. And again, Wants to Watch. As far as I've been led to believe that Wants to Watch doesn't exist this year. So that's another twist as well that I wasn't really expecting until just a couple of days ago. I realized that Wants to Watch is not in the game. So yeah, it's a bit tricky this year. Things are a bit different, which is good, which is always good. We need different. So yeah, but it's really hard to provide adequate advice as such.
Absolutely. I mean, the basics will be there without in terms of organising your club, but this makes your guys' life a bit more difficult, like you say, yours and Wemby's that are the trading advisors. But it's exciting at the same time. It gives us, we've been calling for Want to Watches to be changed, at least if not removed. We've been calling that for a while because apart from the odd one, they're obsolete and they don't actually ever improve them, like Dan had said on last week's show. So there's plenty to do. I mean, even just doing this pod with you today, Shaq, my hype train has now gone up another 10 miles per hour. I have been gathering momentum, and I'm probably sounding, you can probably hear it in my voice, I'm actually getting more excited just because we've been talking about it as well. It's only a week away. I mean, yeah, I'm going to say goodbye to any free time. I can't wait to be sitting aimlessly looking at bronze packs on the app rather than, these 85 times 10 with 10 promo players and footies and that. We'll be in the Discord. We will be hating how badly we've just been beaten because we got very excited trying a new mechanic and then got hammered. We'll be, showing off our 85 marker Royce. I don't even know if he's 85 anymore, but you get to October and he's a terrible pull, but at the start of the game, you're like, wow, he's decent. Or, someone gets in, well, I think Vinny's 89 now, but this year was 86 or whatever. So, I've just got a Vinny. Oh my God, we've got a gold Vinny. And, you look at it now and go like, oh, it's a gold Vinny. But I'm excited for that. I love early game. I absolutely love it. I think it's exciting. I like the different squads, the different options. And to be honest, this is where our Discord as well explodes. This week we've been a wee bit quiet. We're still putting our pack pulls in. Everyone's got every card just about now. But, the Discords are wonderful. Right through until maybe 30s, the Discord's popping. Absolutely popping. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be amazing fun, and I actually can't wait for especially the next few months where we can kind of really get your knees under the table and get to grips with it.
Exactly. It's quite an exciting time. I think one of the things that I've mentioned multiple times is the addition of women in the game. It's so exciting. Brand new players that we've never tried before. We have no idea. We've liked players like Ferland Mendy year on year. Who knows? There could be someone who's 10 times better than Ferland Mendy on day one, and that could be in your club. So that sort of stuff is really exciting. So yeah, let's not discount it. It's there in the game. Let's enjoy it.
Absolutely no. Just on that, Shaq, I just want to say thank you. I know you stepped in very short notice. I think John and Ingvi were meant to be doing a full pod today, but John's, like we said, under the weather. I had it in mind that I really wanted to do a guide towards kind of now and the new game and even the first week of the new game, because I think it's quite important that people kind of get a little bit, I say educated as if I'm an educator. I'm not at all, but people get informed and they can realize there's different ways and different methods around there. So I thought that was quite important, and obviously having your knowledge and experience has been wonderful. So thank you for joining me. Where can people find you, Shaq? Are you on any socials?
Shaqattack 6285 on Twitter, or X rather, and Shaqattack on the Discord. So yeah, just feel free to jump me a message every now and then. Just throw me a message or jump into my DMs, and we can have a chat about anything. If you're trading advice, well, advice is used very loosely, but yeah, happy to help out. Happy to even have a chat if you need someone to listen to your event. Yeah, just shoot me a message. So yeah.
Incredible. I'm NG Downs on X, Nathan Downs. I think I'm NG Downs on Discord now. I've changed my name. Just to say that I will actually be doing 2 pods in a row. I will be back on Monday with my very good friend Dan Wemby. We are doing a farewell to EA. I'm not already in the new one. I'll start again. We're doing a farewell to FIFA 23. So we'll be kind of looking back. So if you've got any memories of the game that you want us to bring up, any experiences, any things you've liked, any things you've really hated, like that silly kickoff glitch that Jack mentioned earlier, anything at all, let us know before Monday. We'll be back then. Until then, Shaq, there's only one thing left to do.
Drop it.
Drop it.
Drop it.
F-U-T. Interview.